Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today I am building something from the world of Skyrim. It's been a while since I've made something from the video game, and I thought it would be fun to go back into it and find something absolutely absurd. Now, in the world of Skyrim, there are ingredients that you can gather for potions, and I have decided to pick the weirdest and possibly the grossest item that you could put into a potion to then drink. I am talking about giant's toes. Yeah. So hopefully you're not too creeped out or grossed out by this video and you see that carving your own body parts and things like that into foam and making them look kind of cool isn't really that difficult to do. So without further ado, today we are building a giant's toe from the video game Skyrim out of EVA foam. Let's get to building! So after a few awkward searches on Google, I found a few decent pictures of the in-game model that I can use to start my giant toe build. I didn't know exactly how large to make the toe. Giants in the game are roughly 11 to 12 feet tall, and their feet are kind of oversized for their body. So I went with the size I saw a few people make it out of a peppercurophile, which was around 8 inches long and 4 to 5 inches wide. So I took a block of 48mm EVA foam, cut it into chunks, and then glued them together with contact cement to make a big enough piece for me to carve out. I drew the rough shape of the top view down so that I could start carving away the bulk of the foam from the toe with an extremely sharp box cutter. I know everyone says you should cut away from you, and I try to practice good safety where I can. Sometimes it's just hard to get a good angle on big awkward shapes like this. Just make sure that you are focused and you keep the hand that is holding the material out of the pathway of the cutting utensil. Once I cut the top down view, I drew a profile view and did the same thing. Now with both views cut, I need to shape it closer to what the toe looks like in the final form. So I cut off more chunks of the edges to round over the parts a little bit more. All this trimming that I am doing in this stage will save me time and dust generated in the next step. So the toe is closer to its final shape now, and I need to refine it to be smoother, and once that is done, then I have to make another pass with carving in detail lines, followed by another pass of stone bit to smooth over all the lines left over from the sanding drum. I thought I would leave this clip at normal speed so you can see that my minute of sanding barely made a dent in the total shaping. This part is very tedious, but if done right, it'll make your prop look really, really good. Now I'm going to carve a piece of 8mm EVA foam into the shape of a toenail to give a closer appearance to what my reference image looks like. Much like the main part of the toe, it's a lot of sanding to get it where I want it. Make sure if you're sanding EVA foam to wear a respirator and work in a well ventilated area, you don't want to breathe in the particles. Once fully shaped, I super glue it onto the toe and do a similar technique to make the segmented bone on the top. Two coats of Plastidip. My black Plastidip kind of looks like it's got a gray tone to it for some reason, and I thought it would be a good idea to add some white highlights now before I start adding the paint here in a second. I load white paint into a chip brush, dab most of it off, and then I hit the high points of the prop with the brush. This technique is called dry brushing. Before I lay down the nasty, dirty skin tone of the giant's toe, I thought I would paint a couple of veins on the appendage. Then when I go to put the color over the top of this with a little bit of watered down acrylic paint, those veins will shine through just a little. This layering effect adds depth to the prop and creates a nice subtle detail. Now I'm going to sloppily mix up some skin tone colors, add a bit of water, and dab on the watered down concoction with a sponge. I make several passes with this sponge. I also do a couple with the chip brush and dry brush and a small brush to get into all the cracks. There are a lot of layers of paint that go into something like this. I also do the same thing to the nail to make it look infected and nasty like the game model is. For that last bit of gory detail, I'm going to use the 5-minute epoxy mixed with a little bit of red and black acrylic paint trick. You mix this 2-part epoxy up, dab it into the areas you want it, and within a couple of minutes you have a permanently fresh looking blood on your prop. This puts the finishing touches on this toe, and with that the build is done. I hope you enjoyed it and got some ideas you could try out for yourself. And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think it turned out awesome. It is definitely something that will look very cool just laying on a shelf, or if you wanted to go a step further, you could build a mount or buy a mount to then put it on a wall as if you had slain a giant yourself and this was your trophy. But yeah, maybe you'll try and make one of these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to make something absolutely gory and gross and disgusting and pointless and yeah. Maybe you'll get some, and inevitably they're gonna ask you, how'd you make that? You give them one of these, tell them much props. Now I just gotta put a little bit of this in your drink. Hope you don't mind. Gross. Peace out. If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and want to see more builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.